Hi, I'm Kate Moran. I'm president of Ocean Networks Canada, and thank you for inviting me to present virtually to Ocean Sites. We like to think of ourselves as an organization that connects anyone through the internet to all aspects of the ocean. Ocean Networks Canada is a not-for-profit society that was established by the University of Victoria to operate and maintain, at the time, the leading cabled ocean observing systems, Venus and Neptune. And Venus and Neptune were developed by two mavericks, Chris Barnes and Verena Tunnicliffe, here at the University of Victoria, in collaboration with the University of Washington and others in the northwest of the United States. And they had this vision. This diagram was developed under John Delaney's leadership at the University of Washington, but it just depicts what we really are trying to do in terms of observing every aspect of the ocean environment: physical oceanography, biological, the interchange with the atmosphere, exchange with the continent, and all aspects of the dynamic geology that sits off the west coast of North America: subduction zone, spreading center, hot vent, cold vent, earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. And so that was the vision for Ocean Networks Canada. A cable was installed in 2006 in Saanich Inlet, and then the following year in the Strait of Georgia, and then in late 2009, early 2010, 10 years ago, the Neptune cable came online, the long 900-kilometer long cable that is off the west coast of Canada, off Vancouver Island. Those squares are nodes that provide power and internet connectivity to sensor systems that are connected to extension cables that are connected to junction boxes that provide the transformers to reduce power to what's needed for standard oceanographic sensors. These sensors sit beneath the ocean floor, on the ocean floor, in the water column, and on land. And we now also deliver data from autonomous systems and mobile assets. What you can see in this diagram is that although it's a relatively small ocean footprint, it represents one of the largest ranges of ocean environments of any footprint in the world's ocean: a spreading center, abyssal plain, subduction zone, gas-rich continental margin, continental shelf that has dynamic wave environment, and then an inland sea that's heavily impacted by humans. In addition to building that physical infrastructure, we also built Oceans 2, which is a big data operating system. We're recognized by the Science Council, the International Science Council, as a world data system, one of only 3 in Canada that are recognized in that way. We have an interactive control system that includes both interactive for science, but also for monitoring the health and actually doing remote repair of systems. It also has broad open access, wide dissemination of data through many ways, and we develop tools and products that get released on a monthly basis to continually improve how we're delivering data for scientists, educators, and of course the public, and now in many cases with infrastructure operators in the ocean. Because of Oceans 2, we're delivering data from other parts of Canada. Ocean Networks Canada operates systems in the Arctic, in Cambridge Bay and Gascoyne Inlet. We're expanding to other communities very soon in the Arctic. We are delivering data from the East Coast with our partner institutions at the University Memorial and Dalhousie University. And they physically operate the infrastructure, and we provide them resources to do so and then deliver data in a really strong partnership. That dashed line you see is we duplicate the data at the University of Waterloo, so we always have a robust access to data, no matter what happens on the west coast of Canada, for example, an earthquake. And so we also have expanded, as you can see, on the west coast to what we call community observatories that I'll talk about later in this presentation. We're funded by the Canada Foundation for Innovation for 60% of our operating funds. These are our 4 science themes. I'll just give you some highlights of some of the science that we've achieved so far to date. And what you can see in this image, in this video, is really just an example of one of the most dynamic places, the Endeavour segment of the Juan de Fuca Ridge. These are hot smokers where you see 300 plus degrees seawater, mineral rich coming out of the seafloor, creating these giant chimneys that get populated with life. So we monitor this part of one of Canada's marine protected areas on a regular basis, but many ridge scientists use these data to understand ridge processes. In terms of the research that we we enable, one of the new areas is neutrinos, and that was a real surprise to us, but we've now installed a test neutrino observatory. It's been operating for 2 years. We just last week just did a survey, actually 2 days ago, did a survey of these straw strings, and they're working quite well. So we're going to be expanding this neutrino observatory in the coming months, and hopefully have a full-scale array of a neutrino observatory at our deepest location in Neptune. And just last week in Nature Astronomy, the description of this experiment was published. In terms of our core research themes, life, we have been able to do things like discover new life forms. We have been able to understand better aspects of climate by a comprehensive study of the impacts of low oxygen in Saanich Inlet. We've been able to understand, scientists have been able to understand the actual quantification of how much gas is coming out of the seafloor based on the quantification from our real-time data. And we have been able to provide data in a continuous manner to really understand slow slip and these aspects of subduction zone earthquakes. And of course, just recently, because of COVID-19, and because we are online and with real-time data over a long period of time, scientists could actually look at those data and were able to quickly publish and demonstrate that ocean noise was reduced due to the COVID-19 reduction in shipping off the west coast of Canada. In terms of scientific impacts, we have a broad data distribution. Less than half are from Canada, a great number from the United States, but also a great number from Europe. Primarily Europe actually use our data, which is freely available in many different ways, as I talked about in Oceans 2. The themes really are distributed among our science themes quite well. We do also provide support for other science, as I just described with neutrinos, but also for forensics and materials science, and also data science that is growing because of the rich data system we have. I anticipate that we'll see a growing number of climate change publications as the length of our time series grow and become more valuable. We're also, because we're now over 10 years, we're starting to see these publications in high impact journals, and we're going to continue. I hope to see that as the scientific community better understands how to use this 24/7 hose of data coming from our systems. We also have a growth in the number of our data users. This is not up to date. We're now up to over 20,000 users. And because of this growth, we can anticipate an increase in publications. In terms of the collaboration, you can see based on just the authorship analyses, we're seeing a lot of collaboration across many countries, which is really something that will help us understand the ocean better as we have many aspects of the ocean knowledge coming together to use our data and data from their own areas of ocean study. Because we're not fully operationally funded, we also work towards developing data products for the federal government of Canada primarily for their mandates, including two themes we call ocean safety and ocean health. And we have many data products, but I'll only be able to touch on a few in this time frame. Of course, one of our main aspects is understanding tsunamis and earthquakes. We also have sea state alerting. As you know well, off the west coast of Canada, we have a subduction zone, and the next earthquake we're in that time window. The last one happened in 1700. And as of course you know, that big subduction earthquakes cause tsunamis. And we have bottom pressure recorders that are distributed across Neptune that feed into the Pacific tsunami warning system. And that system is operational 24/7. But we also work together with communities, seismologists, earthquake scientists, tsunami modelers to continue to update the tsunami models that could generate tsunamis should a subduction earthquake occur under various scenarios. This model is wonderful for research, but we even take it a step further. That circle you see is depicting a town called Port Alberni. It's the end of a long channel that was impacted by the 1964 Alaska earthquake from a tsunami. So what we've done is worked with international modelers who have taken that global model and then using a digital elevation model, moved it at high resolution geographically into the town of Port Alberni, where on the right you can see their emergency response team has developed a map and information to decide where the escape routes would be, where the caches would be, and what plans would take place once, under various circumstances of tsunami impact. We're starting to do this in other areas of Canada, and increasingly we'll be applying the same application to communities at risk of storm surges due to sea level rise. I mentioned earthquakes. A major earthquake will likely happen in British Columbia sometime. We don't know. We know it will, but we don't know exactly when. So we were funded with additional funds to install earthquake early warning sensors offshore. One of the first organizations in the world to put these kind of accelerometers offshore, and we did so. And we have also a dense network on Vancouver Island. The red hats in that diagram show at the time when this earthquake occurred about 2 years ago, that was actually a test case for us. The red were not yet installed, but it was a real test because we had a real earthquake. Many offshore were already installed. And so those circles are traveling at the speed of the primary wave that we measure with these accelerometers and are used to calculate precisely the magnitude and location of the earthquake. Once we have enough sensors to detect the primary wave, that calculation is done, and then an alert is calculated for the specific location where you are. And so in this case, if that had been a subduction earthquake, there would have been over a minute of time for alerting before ground shaking arrived. All of those sensors are now installed, and we're working with operators of major infrastructure in southern British Columbia to actually be beta testers of this, and we're commissioning the system to hopefully go online within the next year and a half. The information from the system will go to the the government, which will be responsible for public alerting, but we're working with infrastructure operators to integrate this to do things like bring fire hall doors open before the building can be damaged and cause the fire trucks and emergency response vehicles to be stranded. Gas pipeline operators, ports, airports, getting major operators of building to get elevators to the floor. And so as I was speaking, that was the time frame for the how much time there was before ground shaking would have arrived in these major centers. So we look forward to moving that forward. In terms of ocean health, we have many data products that we're working on. I'll touch on a few. We worked with the Port of Vancouver to install a special hydrophone array that can really detect and capture ship source signatures. We also do hydrophone research. This was an example of single hydrophones capturing the sounds of killer whales. These are big orcas that are actually feeding on seals. But this is the sound of one of the ship source signatures that we collected in partnership with JASCO. JASCO has taken those data, and because our Oceans 2 data management system captures all the AIS data from Canada, they can pull the AIS data, link it to that ship source signature, and then model in real time the actual noise profile in the Southern Salish Sea. These kind of information are really important to begin to reduce the noise in these areas and to help protect marine mammals. We're also operating all of the coastal radar off the west coast of Canada. We will be operating the coastal radar off of the east coast very soon in partnership with Dalhousie University. We've instrumented the ferries systems and BC ferry systems with many, many sensors, and we have worked with all of the ferry operators off the west coast to, when they build new ferries, to enable them to be outfitted with sensor systems. In terms of ocean acidification, we have installed a buoy system very close to the biggest aquaculture farm location in British Columbia. It's really there as both research and to hopefully develop data products to help shellfish aquaculture farmers to actually make decisions about when they use seawater for various aspects of their farming. And of course, the research is critically important to understand the future of the ocean food web. In terms of Other health aspects, we have been enabling indigenous community collection of their own data. It started in 2012 when we installed a system in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. It was a very simple system. We thought we would just do it to test whether we can operate these in the Arctic. We installed a sea ice thickness monitor, and the community wanted to see those sea ice data in real time in the co-op store. And it was a big aha moment for us, realizing that what we should really be doing is putting in observatories in communities that are tailored to their own needs. At the same time, we engage the community, and now these kids in Cambridge Bay, many of them are very interested in technology and science in one way or the another. And we hire a youth science ambassador for communities where we have now been installing these systems along the BC coast and partnering with others on the east coast of Canada. We complement that with an instrument, a community fishers program, so that they can collect their own data. We do all the QA/QC, and all of the data are high quality oceanographic data collected by mainly indigenous communities in their own oceanfront yards. This map is of British Columbia West Coast, so we've expanded both physical ocean observatory and the community fishers program to many of these locations. And because of that success, we're now going national in terms of working with many of the indigenous communities, including First Nations in British Columbia, Inuit in the north, and now what's not shown on this map yet is indigenous communities in Labrador and the Maritimes. In terms of our longer outlook opportunities, we like to try to push the envelope on how we can use our infrastructure. And this is a stylized diagram of the UN Environment Program's depiction of what we need to do by at least sometime between 2030 and 2040. We're going to have to start removing CO2 from the atmosphere in terms of keeping the planet below 1.5 degrees C. We're an organization of positive thinking, and we don't want to be going, oh my, oh dear. We want to try to do something about it. So we've been partnering with Columbia University and others for several years on an idea of combining negative emission technologies. There's a company here in British Columbia, Carbon Engineering, that does air capture of CO2. And we're now doing a feasibility study to pull together a technology to integrate renewable energy on an ocean platform with carbon direct air capture, but position them over locations of ocean basalt. As many of you know, in Iceland, they demonstrated that there was rapid carbonization of CO2 in Icelandic basalt. And because most of the basalt is in the ocean, we think we should try to get that research going now so that by the time it's really needed, at least by 2040, we'll be able to have some demonstration and research that backs this technology. So we have many partners, and we are really looking at this kind of approach, capture carbon dioxide from the air, pump it below the seafloor where it will carbonate at some level, and that's one of the research aspects we'll be studying. And the reason Ocean Network Canada is involved is because by circumstance, at the time, the Integrated Ocean Drilling Program under Andy Fisher's leadership drilled and conducted a hydrogeological experiment at our deepest water Cascadia site. So we have the ideal site to actually do a demonstration project. So we have been funded by the Pacific Institute for Climate Solutions. Previously, Columbia University was funded by the U.S. Department of Energy for pre-feasibility study. We are now funded by, as I said, the Pacific Institute for Climate Solutions to do a feasibility study with 3 components. And we also put in a proposal to actually advance a demonstration program at Cascadia, hopefully using the JOIDES resolution or its next version of the JOIDES resolution. So with that, I'll stop there, and please feel free to send me comments and questions. And I'm sorry I can't be there in real time, but I hope you enjoyed this virtual presentation, and I hope your meeting goes really well, and that we all get back to not quite a post-COVID world, but a post-pandemic world where we continue to slow the world down in terms of our emissions of CO2. Thank you very much.